Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to a new video. So one of the main things that I like to do on the channel is kind of update you guys anytime there's a new improvement, a new change to the car, and kind of just have a full mod overview series. I've done many of these, kind of going over each aspect of the car. And anytime that I do make a change, I like to make one of these videos to stay on top of it. So if anybody has any questions, I could just direct them towards this video. They can hear all the details and all the specs and anything that they may want to know about that specific modification. And as you guys know, I have been through many different sets of wheels on the STI over the years. And I kind of want to update you guys on the current set of wheels. If you are curious in the many sets that I have ran on this car over my ownership, please check out the video on the top right corner. I go over all the different sets, all the different specs and everything that I have ran. And it's a pretty cool video to kind of see everything put together. As a matter of fact, I actually forgot one set of wheels in that video. I didn't even talk about them. It was a very short stint that I ran them, and those were the work ZR10s. I ran them for literally a week. I bought them brand new and I just ended up not liking them on the car. Just wasn't the color that I wanted and just ended up not really working. It's a really good looking wheel, but I just wasn't a fan of it on my application, so I got rid of them pretty quickly. I realized I didn't even mention those wheels in that video well after I uploaded it and edited the video and everything. And I couldn't believe it slipped my mind. Somebody actually commented and said, "Hey, didn't you run the work ZR10s before?" And I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot. So I did run those wheels. So that is the only wheel missing on that video. But in this video, we're going to be talking about these. So let's get started on the actual specs, all the details on them. And then we're going to go into a little bit more detail about how they fit and all that. And also as to why they're currently on the car. So these wheels are Enkei TS10s. They are in gloss black. The size is 18 by 8.5 plus 50. The tires that I am running are Continental DWS06s, which is an all season, and they are in size 245/40/18s. Now, if you look closely in between the spokes right there, you can see the word Subi Speed. Those are 20mm spacers, effectively bringing the offset of these wheels to 18 by 8.5 plus 30. So my STI is a 2017. In 2018, they bumped up to the 19-inch wheels, but for my specific year from 15 to 17, they came with OEM 18s. The size of those wheels were actually 18 by 8.5 plus 55. So these are actually 5mm more pushed out than the stock wheels. But since I'm running the 20mm spacers by Subi Speed, it brings it out to plus 30. Now, I am running Fortune Auto coilovers. You guys know I went into detail about my specs and how they fit and everything and all the adjustments that I made to get these to fit or to get the current height of the car. If you are interested in hearing exactly where I am in terms of height, check out the video on the top right corner. But in terms of camber, I am running -4 all around, a little bit less up front. I dialed it out once I put these wheels on since they were less aggressive from my previous sets. You do not need to run such an aggressive amount of camber for these wheels. Again, these are pretty close to stock spec. But since I had an alignment and I had everything dialed in the way that I wanted it in terms of the camber and all that, I didn't mess with the alignment specs. So if you were willing to kind of change up these alignment specs and kind of dial out some of the camber, you'd be able to get these to fit a little bit more flush with the actual fender and get them fitting very proper. It's not a very aggressive setup by any means, but like I said, I already had the alignment done, so I just kind of kept it for now. Now, as for the front camber, like I said, I dialed it back out. I was running around -4.1. But since putting these wheels on, I bumped it off a little bit so it wasn't so aggressive, just to make the tire wear a little bit better and to fit a little bit better than it was since it was very cambered. It's probably about -3.5 now, maybe a little bit less. So if I end up deciding to keep these wheels down the line, I may dial out the camber and get a new alignment and get them fitting a little bit better. But for the time being, it is a pretty good fit and I'm happy with it, and it does look very good. Now, this is a question I get asked very often, any wheel sets that I do run, and that is, are any of my fenders rolled? Yes, they are. The rears are rolled from many previous sets. Do you need to roll them for this set of wheels? Absolutely not. I think you're going to be totally fine, especially with the amount of camber that I'm running, but I really don't think you would need to roll them very aggressively if you were running the same set of wheels and you were as low as me, because like I said, this is not too aggressive. The fronts are untouched. I always recommend never touching the front fenders, rolling them because of the fender liners. Once you start rolling them, fender liners don't fit properly and it always looks goofy to me, and it kind of ruins the body lines. I've never been a fan of that. So if you can, stay away from rolling front fenders. Just do the rears, because that is kind of where the problems persist when you have a very aggressive tire setup. So let's start getting into as to why I have these wheels. I'm going to be honest and say this is not a set of wheels that I would personally go out and choose. Although now that I've spent time with them, I think it is a very, very good looking wheel. I will say that there is a better spec on these that I do think looks very, very good, or at least a little bit better. And that is the 18 by 8.5 plus 38 or 35. I forget what the offset is. But it's the same exact wheel. It's just a little bit more aggressive spec, a wider wheel. These are 8.5. The ones I'm talking about are 9.5. So there is a little bit of concave compared to these, which are very, very flat faced. So I do think the wider spec is a little bit better looking on this car than this current spec. Although I will say I have really grown to like these wheels. I think it's a very, very clean and simple setup. I really do like the gloss black on this car, despite how dark it is with everything. I think the nice bright brake kit behind there, the Rotora BBK, I think it looks very, very nice behind the gloss black, and it kind of just works with the theme of the car very, very nicely. Overall, I've been very, very happy with this setup. Very simple, very, very clean. I really like multiple spoke setups. These are a 10 spoke wheel, which is kind of one of my favorites. Anywhere from 10 to 12 spokes, I think looks fantastic on this car. I'm a big fan of thinner spoke wheels, especially on this chassis. I think it looks very, very nice. Because, you know, it allows you to be able to see the brake kit behind the wheels, and I don't know, something about it just looks really, really good to me. And I always kind of gravitate towards thinner spoke, 10 to 12 spoke wheels. If you look back on all the different sets I have ran, they have been very, very similar in terms of the amount of spokes and kind of the design. Now, as for the lugs that I'm running, a lot of people ask me questions about those. Might as well mention them since we are talking about wheels. These are the Project Kicks Legdora. I believe that's how you say it. They are the two-piece ones, so there's actually a lug nut, and then these are actual caps. They screw right on, so you don't have to ruin your nice lug nuts when you're taking them off or putting them back on when you're torquing them. These little caps actually just screw off, and then the lug nut is behind there, so it's a really nice design. It's a good way to keep your very expensive $200 lugs looking good at all times, and you don't have to worry about scratching them or anything like that. So really, really big fan of those, and highly recommend them. I've been running them for a long time on a couple different sets of wheels. So if you're looking for a really nice lug set that stays looking good all the time, I definitely recommend them. As I mentioned, these tires are Continental DWS06s. These are all-season tires. These are my favorite, or one of my favorite all-season tires. These things are absolutely amazing in the snow for an all-season. I actually used to use this same tire on my 2013 WRX hatchback, on my OEM 17s as my winter setup. I've driven through lots of snow with that car on these tires, and they did very, very well. I was really surprised on how great they performed. It was a decent amount of snow. I would say it was around 8 to 10 inches or so, and it plowed right through it. Granted, the Subaru all-wheel drive system is fantastic, but these tires in the winter or in snow were amazing. I will say in the summertime when it heats up a little bit and gets warmer, these don't perform as well as the Michelin AS4s. I think that's a better kind of all-around tire since that's better in the dry and wet, but these are better than the snow, no doubt. And this is stock tire sizing. This is 245/40/18, as I mentioned. It's a very, very comfortable ride compared to what I have been running on the car. I've been running 265/35/18s on multiple sets of wheels. So this is a little bit thicker sidewall, so you get a little bit more tire, you get a little bit more comfortability overall, and I'm really, really pleased with the overall comfort. If you're looking for a tire that's great all year round, fantastic in the snow, that's very quiet, a very daily drivable setup, and you can get a ton of miles on them, I highly recommend the Continental DWS06s. So just for reference, here is the Fitment. This is around -3.5 or so with the 20mm spacer up front. And then if we go in the rear, this is a little bit more aggressive. It's like a -4 or so. As you can see, it's a little bit more kind of cambered in, but still looks very, very good. Let's go on the back side as well so you can see that. Like I said, you can definitely dial out some of the camber, and it would look way better in terms of the fitment, but it works for me. It handles very, very well. Here's the front fitment towards looking towards the front of the car. Again, still looks really good. But if you really wanted to get them to fit better, you can definitely dial out a lot of that camber. So why the heck am I running these wheels? What are these doing on the car? How come I sold my Volk CE28s, which is my dream wheel? I've absolutely loved those. Well, as you guys know, if you've been following me, I decided to part out the car. I decided to sell it. So I parted out a ton of things. And one of the things I wanted to do was obviously sell the Volks because I didn't want to sell the car with such expensive wheels on there. So I kind of wanted to bring the car back to a stock-like state. So my main goal was to pick up a set of OEM 19s from the 2018 Plus STIs, throw them on there, and call it a day. But I had a really, really great trade opportunity that came up from pretty much a local. He was about 20, 25 minutes away from me. And we kind of worked out a deal, which worked out fantastic. And I'm really, really pleased with it. Ended up trading my Volks for these, plus a ton of cash on top of it, obviously, since these are not worth Volk money. But ended up doing the trade. It worked out in my favor. Obviously worked out in his favor as well, since he got his dream wheels. But overall, I was very pleased with the trade. I don't think I could have gotten a better set of wheels. Obviously, OEM 19s would have looked nice, but I'm just not a big fan of the stock STI wheels on any years in this chassis that it came with. The only ones that were okay were the 2015 BBS limited wheels that came on the STIs. Those are pretty cool, but still not my taste overall. The spec of them are pretty weak as well. The Type RA wheels are pretty nice, but overall, these specs are just not where I would want them. So I was kind of happy with the deal. It ended up working out better for me. I think these look way more attractive on the car than the OEM 19s would have. And it looks a little bit more desirable. Plus the black was a good opportunity to really see these brakes pop because I've always ran gunmetal wheels on this car pretty much. And I really wanted to get a really dark wheel to have that brake kit stand out right behind there. And I think it looks great. I've been a big fan of it ever since I put them on. So yes, this is a temporary setup. This is not something that I went out and chose. This is not something that I bought on my own and I was like, oh, I gotta have these wheels. But like I said, after experiencing them, after having them on the car for a while, I do admit they are a very, very good, reasonably priced wheel that I think a lot of people will be happy with if you're looking for a good wheel. I've ran multiple sets of Enkeis on this car, on previous cars before over the years. And Enkei, for whatever reason, I seem to keep coming back to them. So many different styles, so many price points and everything. It's really hard to go wrong with a set of Enkeis. I've ran multiple sets of NT03s. You guys know the RS05RRs that I ran on this car for a while. Multiple different sets of Enkeis over the years. And I've always been pleased with them. The finish on all the wheels that I have ran by them, they have held up over time and they haven't flaked or chipped or anything like that. Which is really nice because it's terrible getting a nice set of wheels and then having the finish kind of flake off and pit and chip easily. These don't. These hold up well over time. Again, with any of the Enkeis that I've had, same exact thing. They've held up very, very well over time. So I really don't think you can go wrong with any set of Enkeis. They have multiple styles, multiple colors, multiple specs. So if you are looking for a good set of wheels, highly recommend the TS10s or anything by Enkei. So in a perfect world, if I was keeping this car, I would probably end up getting, well, I know I would end up getting another set of wheels. So I'd be getting most likely another set of Volks, probably ZE40, since that is the wheel I've always wanted to run on this car. But I would end up keeping these as well, use them kind of as a winter set. Not that I would drive this car much in the winter, but just have something a little bit less expensive that I can kind of put around town and not have to worry about really expensive wheels on there. So I would end up keeping these anyway since I've grown to love them so much. And I do think it's a really good looking wheel on the STI. All right, guys, so that is going to wrap up the wheel update on the STI. I figured it was a good idea to give you some details on these wheels since I actually do get a lot of questions on them, the specs, the fitment and everything, what wheels they are. So I figured I'd make a dedicated video, do a little bit of an update for you guys. So if anybody is interested in this setup in the future, I can direct them towards this video, have all the specs and all the details that you can possibly want, and kind of show them off a little bit, and it may help somebody out decide on these wheels or not. So that is going to do it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions at all about the Enkei TS10s or anything else on the STI, please let me know in the comments below. But in the meantime, keep it clean, keep it simple, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.